It might be the best game nobody ever saw. Magic Johnson, in the summer of 1992, on the sunlit coast of Monte Carlo. 12 of the greatest basketball players in history gathered in a single gym. There were no fans in the stands, no flashing cameras, no press conferences, no cheering crowds, only the squeak of sneakers, the echo of a bouncing ball, and the silent weight of greatness in the air. These weren't just NBA All-Stars. They were immortals, men who had dominated the league, changed the game, and captured the imagination of millions. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, Scottie Pippen, David Robinson, Clyde Drexler, Chris Mullin, John Stockton, Christian Laettner, and one man who stood just a little taller than the rest. Not in height, but in hunger. Michael Jordan. This was the Dream Team, the most talented collection of basketball minds and bodies ever assembled. They had nothing left to prove to the world. But inside that closed gym, they weren't legends yet. They were competitors. And in that practice, far from the spotlight, something happened. Something no box score would ever record. No highlight reel would ever show. Something too raw, too real, too powerful for television. Michael Jordan didn't just show up. He made a statement. He didn't just win. He dismantled egos. He turned legends into spectators. He took command of the court like it was his personal stage, and reminded every Hall of Famer in that gym who the real king was. This was no ordinary practice. This was war, and when the dust settled, there was no debate left. This is the untold story of the day. Michael Jordan humbled the Dream Team. It was supposed to be a break, a brief pause before history was made, a tune-up session, light drills, a chance to build chemistry before the storm of the Olympic Games in Barcelona. But this wasn't just any team. This was the Dream Team. Fresh off a string of exhibition games across the globe, they landed in Monte Carlo, a city of glamour, yachts, and Mediterranean breeze. But beneath the surface, in the quiet corners of hotel lounges and practice gyms, tension was building. Because for 12 of the greatest players to ever pick up a basketball, competitiveness never sleeps. Magic Johnson, the architect of Showtime, a 5-time champion, a general on the floor with a smile that masked a killer instinct. Larry Bird, the cold-blooded assassin from Indiana, wounded in body, but never in pride. Charles Barkley, raw power and unstoppable energy, already stirring headlines with his outspoken swagger. Karl Malone, the mailman, always delivering, physically dominant, never backing down. Patrick Ewing, the warrior from Georgetown, anchoring the paint. David Robinson, the Admiral Grace, size and athleticism combined. Scottie Pippen, the ultimate two-way player, quiet, efficient, deadly. John Stockton, underrated but surgical, a maestro of the pick and roll. Clyde Drexler, smooth, explosive, graceful in the air. Chris Mullin, left-handed sniper with a silky jumper. Christian Laettner, the lone college kid, eyes wide open, soaking in the weight of the moment. And at the center of it all, Michael Jordan, at the peak of his powers. 2-time NBA champion, back-to-back MVP, a man in the process of rewriting what dominance looked like. 12 men, 12 alpha competitors. 12 names etched forever into basketball history. They had nothing left to prove individually. But egos don't vanish when greatness gathers. What started as a simple layover on the road to Olympic gold became something far more intense. Because before they could conquer the world, before they could wear gold around their necks and stand atop the Olympic podium, they had to face the one challenge they couldn't prepare for each other. And what happened behind closed doors in that Monte Carlo gym, in a single, brutal, unforgettable practice, would go on to become one of the most legendary, untold stories in the history of the game. A clash not just of talent, but of legacies. A battle not just of plays, but of pride. And at the center of it, a man who would seize the moment and claim the throne. This wasn't just a practice. This was mythology in motion. And it all began. In Monte Carlo, coach Chuck Daly had seen it all. He had coached stars, managed egos, built contenders, but never, not once, had he stood in front of this much talent, in a single gym, at the same time. And he knew what was brewing. This wasn't a vacation. This wasn't a public appearance. This was fire, barely contained, simmering beneath every jersey. He looked around the court, every man staring at the other, waiting for a challenge, for a reason, for permission to unleash. Chuck gave them that reason. He called for a full-court scrimmage. No restrictions, no timeouts, no refs, just basketball. Pure, unfiltered, and primal. 10 men, 2 teams, bragging rights on the line. On one end, Magic Johnson, still smiling, still running the show, still commanding respect. With him, Charles Barkley, the human battering ram, David Robinson, the 7-foot force of nature, and Larry Bird, battered by injuries, but not by pride. The eyes still sharp, the shot still pure. On the other end, Michael Jordan, silent, focused, coiled like a spring. Scottie Pippen, his shadow, his equal, his partner in defense and destruction. Karl Malone, built like a tank, running like a gazelle. Patrick Ewing, the anchor, ready to patrol the paint with cold fury. There were no playbooks, no sponsors, no television deals, only legacy. The ball went up, and from the first possession, it was clear. This wasn't practice. This was war. Every screen was set with extra force. Every drive came with a shoulder. Every call was contested. No one wanted to lose. Not here, not now, not in front of each other. This was the moment they'd all secretly waited for, to test themselves, to settle the unspoken debate. Who was the best? When the best played, the best. And right there, in that closed gym in Monte Carlo, that question began to find its answer. Michael Jordan was about to turn practice into legend. From the opening tip, Magic Johnson's team exploded out of the gate. They moved the ball with precision, rhythm, and flair. The kind only possible when Hall of Famers share the court. Backdoor cuts, no-look passes, pick-and-rolls run to perfection. The gym turned into a stage, and Magic was the conductor. He was everywhere, directing traffic with a finger, pointing teammates into space, throwing bounce passes through invisible seams, smiling as he did it, like he already knew how the story ended. Charles Barkley crashed the boards with ferocity. Larry Bird floated to the wing, catching and releasing like he'd done 1,000 times before. David Robinson altered shots in the paint, controlling the air around the rim. And Magic was in full Showtime mode. He hit a mid-range jumper. Clean, confident, cold, and as the ball swished through the net, he backpedaled down the court, grinning, voice rising above the sound of the game. "It's over, baby. You had your run." The words echoed through the gym, directed squarely at Michael Jordan. A provocation, a declaration, a spark. The other players chuckled, nodded, even barked in agreement. After all, Magic was the old king, the face of the '80s, and in that moment, he looked like he still owned the throne. Jordan, he didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't respond. He just stood there, eyes locked in, jaw tight, hands on his knees. No smile, no trash talk, just silence. And something else, something only the greats recognized. That look, the look that said, "You woke me up." Magic's team kept pushing. They extended the lead. The scoreboard tilted in their favor. The energy was electric, but those watching closely saw it. A shift, a stillness in Jordan that wasn't surrender. It was calculation. Because while Magic celebrated, Michael wasn't done. He was just waiting. He didn't say a word. Not yet. But when he did, the gym would never forget. Then, something changed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, like the flick of a switch in a dark room. Michael Jordan shifted. The smile was gone. The stillness replaced by movement, fast, precise, and purposeful. There was no celebration, no words, no theatrics, only execution. He attacked, one dribble, 2 steps, pull-up jumper from the elbow, net. Next possession, a quick steal, reading Magic's pass before it left his hand. Then a no-look dish to Karl Malone under the rim. Dunk. Back on defense, he barked out switches, clapped his hands, crouched lower, dared his man to try. The gym just moments earlier buzzing with laughter and trash talk grew quieter. Players on both teams stopped smiling. They knew Jordan had entered that zone, where he wasn't just playing to win, he was playing to remind them, all of them, who he was. Each move, each possession, each gesture, louder than any taunt. And then, something even more remarkable happened. He elevated them. Scottie Pippen, already one of the league's fiercest defenders, locked in with Jordan-like intensity. He denied passing lanes, hounded his man, turned defense into offense in seconds. Karl Malone, the bruiser, became immovable. He set bone-rattling screens, crashed the glass with fury, protected the paint like a fortress. Chris Mullin, the quiet shooter, started hitting everything. Mid-range jumpers, spot-up threes. Off the dribble, swish, swish, swish. Jordan wasn't just dominating. He was leading, he was igniting. He flew into passing lanes, tipped balls, chased down rebounds. He barked encouragement, clapped for teammates, lifted the energy of the entire gym. He wasn't just playing harder. He was pulling the whole team into his orbit, and the momentum, once firmly in Magic's hands, began to shift. Basket by basket, stop by stop, moment by moment. Jordan wasn't everywhere. He was everything. The gym had changed. What began as a scrimmage was now a battle. What began as light competition was now a showcase of supremacy. And Michael Jordan, he was no longer responding. He was rewriting the script. And everyone else was just trying to keep up. The game turned. Magic's lead, once comfortable and commanding, began to slip away. First inch by inch, then with sudden, unstoppable force. The confident trash talk, it faded. The smiles, gone. Now, there was only one king on the court. Michael Jordan. He was no longer just a player in this game. He was the owner of every inch of that hardwood. He drove past defenders like they were ghosts. Untouchable, unstoppable. Every crossover left defenders off balance. Every step-back jumper was a dagger to the heart of Magic's team. Jordan pointed to teammates, clapped his hands to rally them, shouted commands and encouragement, fire in his voice. The gym vibrated with his energy. His presence was magnetic, impossible to ignore. The momentum shifted. The scoreboard reflected it. Magic's once sizable lead evaporated, erased by Jordan's relentless will. Exhaustion settled on Magic's face. Sweat dripped down his brow. He sat down, defeated not just by the scoreboard, but by the sheer force of Jordan's domination. Turning to Larry Bird, Magic shook his head and muttered, "There's a new sheriff in town." His was more than a practice, more than a scrimmage. It was a statement, a declaration, a passing of the torch. Michael Jordan hadn't just beaten the Dream Team, he had humbled them. That was the moment it became undeniable. Michael Jordan wasn't just a rising star anymore. He was the center of the basketball universe. Magic Johnson, the maestro of the 80s, had ruled with charisma and flair. Larry Bird, the embodiment of skill and grit, had redefined what it meant to be a competitor. But Jordan was something else entirely, a force beyond comparison, an athlete whose will bent the game to his command. Coach Chuck Daly watched it all unfold. He called off the scrimmage. No more playing, no more competition. The battle was over. But the message, that echoed through every corner of that gym and beyond. There was no debate anymore. No question of who led, who inspired, who dominated. Michael Jordan was the alpha, the new king, the standard, the legend. From that day forward, the basketball world would never be the same. There is no full footage of that scrimmage, no highlights, no box score, no stats, just silence and memories. Memories shared by the men who lived it. Legends who don't need cameras or headlines to remember. They remember every move, every shot, every steal, every moment when history was quietly made in that gym. Players who, decades later, still admit that was the greatest game they ever played. The intensity, the competition, the sheer will. But here's the most incredible part. It didn't even count. No medals, no trophies, no records, just respect. And the unspoken understanding that, on that day, Michael Jordan didn't just play basketball. He redefined it. And that game, it remains a secret, a legend whispered among those who were there, a masterpiece that the world never saw. What made Michael Jordan different? It wasn't just the skills everyone admired, the graceful jump shot, the explosive drives, the defensive tenacity. No, it was something deeper, an obsession, an unyielding hunger to compete, to win, every single moment. Even when the stakes were invisible, when the gym was empty, no roaring fans, no flashing cameras, no trophies waiting on a pedestal. While others took the day as a break, Jordan attacked with the same fire, the same intensity, the same relentless spirit that would carry him to 6 NBA championships. That day in Monte Carlo, he didn't earn a medal, he didn't gain a title, he earned something far more valuable: respect. Respect from the greatest players to ever grace the court, respect from teammates and rivals alike. Because true greatness isn't measured by applause or awards. It's measured by the will to dominate, to push beyond limits, to never settle for anything less than being the best. Michael Jordan's legacy wasn't built on just games won or points scored. It was built on a mindset that made him not just a player, but a legend. The Dream Team went on to crush every opponent in Barcelona. Their dominance was undeniable. Every game, a statement, every victory, a showcase of talent unmatched. They won gold, the highest prize in sport. But long before the final whistle blew, before the crowd roared, before history was etched in medals and record books, the real battle had already been won. Not on the Olympic court, not under the global spotlight, but in Monte Carlo, in a quiet, forgotten gym, where cameras didn't record, where no trophies waited, where Michael Jordan didn't just humble the Dream Team. He crowned himself the undisputed king, the man who transcended the game. That day marked more than a victory. It marked a legacy, a turning point, a moment in time when greatness was defined not by headlines, but by heart, by will, by unstoppable drive. Michael Jordan, forever, the alpha, the legend, the standard. And the world of basketball would never be the same. If you love uncovering untold stories like this, those hidden moments that shape the legends, then make sure to subscribe. Subscribe now and join us as we dive deep into the greatest tales from the hardwood. We'll bring you closer to the players, the games, and the history that basketball fans crave. And we want to hear from you. If that legendary scrimmage had been televised, if the world had witnessed every basket, every steal, every moment of intensity, would it be the greatest game ever played? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share your memories, your opinions, your debates. Because this was the day Michael Jordan humbled the Dream Team. A day that changed the course of basketball history. And it's a day basketball will never forget.